Hello YouTube, and welcome to a brand new Unity 3D tutorial. And in this tutorial we're going to do something what a lot of users would have requested, and that's crafting. So we're going to do basic crafting and then hopefully in the future just maybe expand it, make it better. So what we're going to do is create a box. You go up to it, you press a key, it opens up a menu. Then from that menu you have a couple of selections. You click a selection, and then if you've got the required materials in your inventory, you click craft and it will allow you to craft it and give it you in the inventory and take those out. If not, it'll show a simple error. So it's really simple to do, but it can get quite long and confusing because you have to use a lot of, well, you have to use a few for loops to search both the length of the recipes and the length of the materials you have to constantly check something. But I'll explain it along the way, and it's really easy to do. So hopefully we get it completed in under an hour. So we're not going to do an advanced GUI for it, we're going to do a basic one, but we're going to do that later. First thing I want to do is if we go to our MISC scripts, we have our item stats and we have our weapon stats here. What I want to do is actually make it so, say we open the wooden sword, it'll show what materials what materials and how much materials it require to craft a wooden sword. Now this is really simple to do, but there's many ways to do it as well. So if we just open it up, and if you also haven't watched this tutorial about classes and weapon stats, you may want to follow my series. So if we go down and find right here, most people would just add it here, so we'd say like I don't know, recipe name, so material name, then material amount, and they might make an array, then it carry on. But the issue is with that is you can click on them separately so they won't be together, and we want it together. So like when we add it, it'd be like wooden sword, then you'd open it up and it'd say material 1, material 2, you click one, then it shows you the amount you need. It's really easy to do as well. So what we're going to do is in our scripts folder is create a new class, a new folder, tools, call it tools, and then inside we'll create a new variable, JavaScript, JavaScript, and we'll call it recipe class. And we'll open it up, and in here we are going to create a new class. So I'm going to type class recipe. I hope that's spelled right. And what this will do is contain a material name, which will be wood, or iron, stone, energy, whatever we need, and it'll be a string so we can type a name. But we also need an amount, so how much of it do you need, kind of. So I'm going to type var material, that's spelled wrong, material amount, and this will be an int. But since we might have more materials than it, we can actually just create recipe as a array later, just like we did for all the others. So when we call it, it will just call it like that. So this will stay normal. So I'm simply going to finish it off by typing function recipe and then add our parameters and set everything up. So mn will be string and ma will be int, and then down here we set mn, material name equal to mn, and material amount equals to ma. And what this will basically do is when we call recipe, since it's called the same as it'll load it first, then whatever parameters we've typed in, so say we type in recipe string then int, so wood 1, it'll require 1 wood, it'll come down here and set these variables to whatever parameters we typed in, so then it just stores it in the inspector. It's a really weird class, but it works the exact same way too. So now that we've done that, we can actually come back up to here and type it in, because even though this is not public, Unity treats it as public, so we can just simply type recipe as a variable and it'll come straight up. So down here we'll simply type var recipes and it'll be a recipe, and we'll set it to an array, just like that. And in our parameters here, we'll simply make it, so we'll type rec, so rep, and we'll make it a recipe, but you've got to make sure you don't put it as an array, because we're setting an array to an array, so it'll do it for you. So recipes That's spot wrong. Recipes, there we go, equals REC. So then we're just setting basically an array to an array, so that's why you don't need to put an array column here. I fell for that mistake before. So we've now done that. We need to actually add it to the weapon bits really, otherwise we'll get an error. So I'm going to put it after the physical object like we have here. So null, 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 null. So right after here we're going to type new recipe. So we're creating a new of that data type. And then because we've set it here, we've set it there, we can actually type in the parameters of this like I said earlier. So we need the name of it. So in order to craft a wooden sword, what material do we need? Well, we probably need oak wood, because if you go back to our item stats, do that and open up item stats, you see that we have oak wood. So you could also put palm wood, but I'm going to simply say just wood for now, oak wood. And then after it you put a comma in between the brackets and you put how much of that you need. So let's see, we need one for the handle, one for the thing that goes across, so we'll say 2 wood. And then for the actual blade we'll say iron. But at the moment we've already done the recipe, so we can't add it on. Now the way you actually do it is you put a square bracket before and after it, and then in the square brackets you put commas, and this will basically create an array using it. So if you just put square bracket, just like you set an array, you're basically just putting data into here. So it works. So if I zoom in some more so you can see, we go new recipe, so I can copy it and paste it again. So we can say here iron bar, and we'll say 1 iron bar to stretch and fill it. In fact we'll say 2. So 2 oak wood, 2 iron bar, you make a sword. Get rid of the comma, and then that's that one done. So if you want to not put any in, so for the fireball we don't need any recipe because we already have that and it's unlimited. So what you're going to do is simply put it in the square brackets still. In fact you won't even, put it in square brackets because it's still an array, so you still need to define it. You can actually just set it to 0 and blank, and then it won't add anything. So that's all you need, and I'm just going to simply do that for everyone. Yep. Like so. So now we've added it. If we go back to the inspector, click miss scripts, cannot convert recipe to recipe. The reason we get this error is a mistake on my part. When we actually define an array at the side of here, we're basically coming down here and setting this variable, and then when we set weapon and we put in the parameters up above, we're simply at saying there, put 1 parameter in. That's not setting anything. So if we put an array after that, once it's assigning it, it's assigning recipes, which is an array specified there, to another array from the parameters we've typed in. I apologise for that. If you don't get it, just type it in. All the codes are in the description for you, and it's just basically my way of doing it. So once that's done, you will see now in the description, if we were to just leave it, you will see recipes, size 2, oak wood, and material amount is 2. So that's perfect, but it looks a bit weird, so I'm going to go back to our tools, recipe class, and instead of material name, I'm just going to type name and amount, like so, because then when we look in the inspector, you will see that when it loads, it looks a lot neater. So name, oak wood, amount 2, iron bar, and you can even add it in here if you don't want to add it in script directly, and every single one does it. So as you can see, none. Perfect, right? So really easy. So next thing we got to do is actually create our crafting grid. So all I'm going to use for now is just a box. That's all I'm going to use, a cube. So I'm going to set it to 5, 5, 5 and put it roughly here, just so the player, because if I remember rightly, he's there. When he drops down, he can simply come to it. But I'm a little cheat, so I'm going to move him closer and closer. So he has literally nothing to walk next to it. But, oh dear, we've still got to make it so to test whether the press C to do something works. So we need to give him some room so he can walk straight up to it. So we'll grab this and we'll just name it crafting box. So the next thing we're going to do is actually begin creating our crafting grid script, And this is where it starts to get complex when we have to start scripting it. But we're going to break it down. So the first thing we're going to do is work on the range detection. So when you walk up to it, it shows a message saying press blah 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 to open, and then when you leave it quits. That's all we're going to do for now, really simple, and then after we'll expand it more. So I'm going to put in HUDs because it's a type of HUD. So I'm going to right click, create, and we'll call it JavaScript crafting, and we'll open it up. So this is where we begin. So the first thing we need is a private variable, so I'll type boolean private var. We're making it private because we don't want to see the it in the inspector. And we'll say show screen, and that'll be a boolean equal to false. So we'll use this to actually say when it's supposed to show the on GUI or not. So down here, if we type function on GUI and put it in here, we can put if show screen. So if it's true, then we show it. So we'll just type here GUI.box. I'm just typing something just to see if it works. So rect will say 200 across, 200 down, 400, 400, and then inside we'll say nothing. So if we don't attach a skin to that, it should just show a box in the middle of the screen. So from here, let's actually work on the range detection bit. So I'll just create a new variable at the top called private var because we don't want it in the inspector again, and we'll call range, and it'll be a vector 3. And the reason I'm putting it up there and not in the update is because then we can actually stop and calling it whenever we want to, or we can change it and use the same variable multiple times. So up here I'm going to type if show screen. So if it's true, then we don't need to show it, but we're going to make it false. So if it's false, so it's not on, which it is, then we'll start calling the range. So range equals GameObject.find. So we're searching for an object. If you're on C#, capital G, and character dot transform dot position. So we're getting the character's exact position with that, and then we're going to take it away from the current position just by typing transform dot position. So that's taken it away, and then using magnitude we can tell the distance between it. So if we type if range dot magnitude is less than, and this is where we're actually going to start showing the press this to open. So we'll say if it's less than 10, so they're in range of it, then in here we need to go and grab our subtitle thing text. Really simple. So if we go to our where is it, HUDs, and we need to grab our player information panel, grab the GUI text and make it say something different. So if we copy that name, because it's a long one, if you haven't got that, simply create a variable, stick GUI text on it, that should work. So in here we'll type GameObject.find player information panel .GUI text. So we're going to get its GUI text property. So you don't need to do get component. You can if you like, but it's a little shortcut if you don't. I think you have to if you take out PragmaScript as well. But yeah, so we're going to go and get the text property. So .text equals press, what key shall we use? C. Press C to open, to craft. There we go. Press C to craft. But now what we need to do is actually enable the script on it here, well, the static boolean, to say that nothing else can actually open it here. So that's really simple as well. So I'm going to copy the name, and in crafting underneath this I'm going to type input text controls, which is the name of it, and I'll put input text active equal true. And what that'll do is come down here and basically disable it after a timer. Really simple. Stops anything else messing with it. So we've got that, but we now need to make sure if the user actually presses C. So if we come down here and type in if input.get key up C, so if the user presses it, then we simply do show screen equals true. So that will detect if the player's in range. If they are, show it press C to craft. If they press C, show screen, which will show this. But we now need a way for them to disable it as well. So under this if show screen is false, we'll type else if show screen. So if it's true this time, because we don't want it to be searching both. You could do it the other way, but I'm not going to. Then we want to give the user the ability to press C again, and if they do, it disables it, false. But we not only want to do that, we also want to check their range again. So I'm going to copy this line up here and paste it in here. You could also just put it up here and only call it once, which I'm actually going to do because it seems easier. So if we get rid of the range here and here, then we're simply just calling it once instead of creating the same thing twice. So down here, we'll paste it in here. If range.magnitude is more than 12, so if the user's activated it then runs away, we simply make it false. So that's it. That's the basics of the range detection and showing the basic GUI. So if we try it now, if we've actually equipped it, which we haven't, so here, touch it. We don't need any designs or anything yet. We will need after this if it works. We can click resume, come back over and go over to here. Press C to craft, C, and that's also for our cheats, so obviously we can't have that key. If you haven't used cheats, you don't worry about it, so press Q to craft. If they press Q, really easy. So if we press it again, the reason it was doing that is because C also is for a cheat system. If you've never watched that, we did a cheat system. Check it out, it's quite a cool tutorial. But if we come over, press Q to craft, opens up, perfect. If we get away, it closes, come back, press it. Perfect, so that all works. So if you wanted to, you could actually save this entire script now and reuse it for a lot of the same things. So crafting, it'll work for blacksmithing, texturing, pretty much all that kind of stuff, talking. This script here is the basics of it all, so yeah. So now let's get on to making a more advanced GUI system. So first thing I'm going to do is add a background, so textures, and I'm just going to use the inventory background for it. Links in the description if you want it. I think I need to remember doing that. So var, this needs to be a normal var because we need to show it in the inspector so we can actually put it in. So var, we'll call it background, and it'll be a texture 2D. We don't want it to be a normal texture because that's for materials and everything, it treats it slightly differently. So texture 2D background. We also want a close button, so we'll type close texture 2D. What else do we want? That's it, that's all the ones I'm going to use. So there's two. So instead of GUI box, I'm going to type GUI.begin group. And I also need to GUI.end group, like you do every time. And instead of nothing, I'm going to type background. So now we have a GUI kind of thing. So I'm going to set it to 512, 512 size, and that's a group. So if we were to move this group, everything inside would move with it. It's really helpful. So in here, let's create a close button. So we type GUI.button, and rect, we will say, oh look at that, it's popped up there what we need. So we need a left, top, width, and height. Perfect, we already know that, but it's still helping. So we'll say it is, say if it's 512 across, then we'll say it's 450 across, 10 down. Then we can say it's 64 by 64, and its background is close. But since it's a button, we don't put a semicolon, we need to put it in an if statement. So if the user presses it, like so. So in here, what do? We simply show screen equals false. That's it. That's a more advanced system. But from here as well, we can also edit it by going if GUI.button. So we'll say rect, and we'll say it can be 250 across. It can be 250. Well, 500 down. Well, not 500. We'll say 490 down, and then for the width, we'll say 100, and then 30. Yeah. And then if we put a comma, we can actually put craft. And if you put a space after it, and then put a plus, along here later, we are actually going to implement so it tells you what you're going to craft. And it should be really cool. So in here is where we will begin crafting. So we'll just put print craft for now, because we're going to do that in a separate function. But yeah, so we'll do that now. So function craft, and then we'll just put print craft there, and put craft up here. You'll see why we use a separate function later, because it's actually really long. So that's all the two things we're going to use for now, but we also need something for like to choose what to make. So at the moment all I'm going to make is wooden sword, but I am going to show you how to make another one as well in the future, obviously. So you could use a normal button here, but I'm going to use a selection grid, and the reason is because then you can just make it go down and down and down forever, and it's a lot easier really. So in here we're going to start with a variable up the top, because we need one to basically justify which button we've clicked. So we'll type ints, because I don't want to spell it, and we'll type private var, because we don't want it in the inspector, selected grid, that's grid int equals 0. So I'm going to set it to 0, because otherwise it'll be set to nothing, and if it's set to 0 then it'll automatically select the first one for us, which helps the user a little bit. So in here we'll type selected grid equals, and then we're going to create a GUI.selection grid, and it'll be rect. So we'll say it will be like 40 across, 20 down, and this is where we need the X length. So if you're going to keep going across forever, you'll set it to that, but I'm going to use it like, so it's going to be 1 1, so they're going to be under each other, like a Dropbox if you wish. So we'll say 70 across, but then for the down width we never know how much you're going to put in, so I'm going to show you a little tip that'll do it for you. So if you make your variable up above, because we need one anyway, so we'll just type here grids, and we'll type var, because we need this in the inspector so you can manually set it, and we'll say grids, and what this will be is the different items where it will show, and I want it to be a GUI content which will show image, name and a tooltip, which you can use. You don't have to use them for them things, you can use them from other things. For example, we've once used tooltip to store IDs, which is nothing like what they're supposed to be used for, but it helps. And we're going to set it to an array. Now if you come down here for grids, where you're setting it, and type grids.length, and then times it by whatever size each button is down, so we'll say 30, then what it's going to do is, say your grids is 1 times 30 is 30, so it'll just show one button. But if you set it to 50, well, we'll say 5 because I can't do that calculation, 5 times 30, then it's going to space it out evenly. If you put 32, it might put a little gap in between it, but I'm just going to set it to 30, it seemed to work before. So you put a comma, and after that you set your integer again, so what integer it's using, select a grid. You set your grids, so it's grids, then you end it. But one thing I forgot is you set how many is across, so we set it to 1. You can set it to 50 across if you want, it depends which way you want it. So obviously in the future we'll make a scroll bar to make it look neater, but for now we're not going to. So we have that, let's try it. So in ours, we're actually going to use the tooltip for the ID of each item. So say we use a wooden sword, the tooltip will be 0. And the reason we do this is because it saves a lot of time using for loops to search it. But in the future we're going to make it manually search, of course. So if we go to our project and search for inventory grid, I'm going to assign that to the background, and then cross for the close. If you haven't got these items, I will try to post it in the inspector. So I've just noted it down, so hopefully I should remember to do that, but they will be in the description if you want it. So in grids here, we're going to set it to 2 for now. So if we set it to 2, that means we need to give another one another recipe. So we'll say ice ball. So at the moment we can't collect water, but if I just copy these two brackets and paste it into ice ball, we'll say you need some energy box, which if we go to our item stats is a thing, energy box, and we will say stone. So it's kind of like an ice ball. That's exactly what it is. We need some water basically, but we haven't got water yet. So we'll say energy box and stone, not stone. So 1 stone and 4 energy boxes. The reason I'm using 4 is because the stone's going to be roughly round, and I know energy could fold, but if you do the mathematics to find out the area of the sphere, you do it by 4. So we'll just say 2. Yes. So there we have. So you're mushing it in. So we have a recipe for it. So we're going to create 2. So if we go back here, and in text or name, whatever you want to call it, we'll type wood sword. And you need to make sure this is exactly what you've called it in your weapons stats here. So wood sword and an ice ball. The reason you have to do this is kind of annoying now, but how often are you going to make automatic changes to your every single crafting system? So the tooltip is 0 and the ice ball is 2. So 0, 1, 2. Yeah. And we're not going to set any images because we don't need it. So if we click play and run up, hopefully everything should work. So we don't want a tutorial, run up, Q to craft. Hey, look at that, it works. It needs to be bigger though, so it's automatically spaced. You can see we can add 4, and it always automatically spaces it. Add 50. As you can see, really easy way. I should have used that. I don't know why it does that. For some strange reason, it decides to sometimes shut it off. But we've got cross, that works. It's doing it again. The crafting doesn't do anything yet, but we need to align it a bit better. So I'm going to play with the numbers. I'll come back and show you the numbers after, because it's a long process to get it right. So I'm back, and as you can see, I've aligned it a lot better. So we've got the big cross button where it needs to be. We could assign a skin to that. I need to expand these two, but that's really simple to do, and the crafting is where it needs to be. So it's easy to access. So what I've done is I set the cross button to 440 across and 0 down. So just set that now. And then the GUI button for the crafting I set to 100 down, 470, I apologise, 100 across, 470 down, 300 width, and then 30 height. And then for the selector grid beneath it, I set it to 20 across, 70 down, and then I left it for that. But for the width, I'm going to actually expand it to 130. So then it should fit nicely. So the last thing we have is crafting, the actual crafting part of it. And this is the hardest bit. It's not hard, it's just complicated if you can't get your head around it. But I'm hopefully going to explain it. So the rest of this tutorial, I don't know how long it'll be. If it looks extremely long, it's only to try and get your head around it, because everything up to now is perfect. Yeah. So the first thing we're going to do is actually create links to every script we need links to. So by that I mean, well, obviously when we craft it, we need a link to the player's inventory to actually add it to it. So we're going to create that above. So just here I'm going to type scripts, and I'll type private var because we don't want it in the inspector, we can manually code. And we'll call this one IMV for inventory. And we'll just put, yeah, we don't need player inventory, so inventory will be player inventory, I believe it is. I'm not 100% sure, we have to have a look. But if we have a look, we need the one which adds it to our inventory. So if we look down, we need, where is it? Inventory add item, that's the one we need, right there. So if you haven't got an inventory, you can check the script, the tutorials, they do the same thing. So we'll say inventory add item. So that'll be that script. So we need to assign it. So in here we'll type imv equals gameObject.find character.get component inventory add item. Boom. Game object. So we've got private var there, so, and then it assigns it. So if we duplicate it, we also need one for our weapon stats to actually go and get the materials here. You could just do this by constantly typing gameObject.find, but often you are using gameObject.find this to get the weapon stats, to get the materials, by using the item stats length of it, so it gets a very long line unless you have these shortcuts. So we'll type in items, and this will be item stats, and then with this we can paste it below items item stats, but this is not assigned to character, it's assigned to miss scripts. Boom, so that assigns that one. And our final one is simply the weapons, because this you will need to actually get the materials. Weapons stats. Assign it, and weapons. So we now have 3 links which will help dramatically later. So if we close out these 2 down, we work in here now. So, close all 3 of them down. So first thing we've got to do is actually search our weapons, so this variable here, for the weapon we've chosen. So we'll use our tooltip, which we've set to get the ID of it. So wood football, so we'll say you set it to 2, it comes to ice ball. We need it to search for however many recipes it's got. So if you've got 1, we need to set the for loop to 1. But if it's got 50, it needs to search 50 times. And all this is going to do is search it here. So it'll search that, then it'll come and search when it's got this. So we're creating a for loop inside a for loop. The first for loop will search out whatever amount of times we've got recipes. So every single time it searches this one, then it searches this one, then it searches the next one, or then it stops, whichever one. But inside the for loop, it'll be searching each material we have, each item here. So it'll be going, say it's on energy box, so the first one, so X 0, Y 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it gets to energy box, then it'll be like, then we search, does the player have enough player amount? Do they actually have more than what we need? If it's no, it'll do something. If not, it will. I hope that helps, because that was actually a pretty good explanation in my mind, but it's different for every person. But I'll show you, it's really simple. So because we're going to be using many for loops, we're actually going to create the variables above. So each time you call craft, it's going to create this variable. So we'll type var x just to help, and it'll be an int. That's all we're going to do. And we'll also create y. So x and y. You can call it anything you like. So we could call x weapon search, recipe search. We could call y item stats. But we'll be using x and y that often, it's easy to just press it. So the first one is going to search our materials, so the recipes here. So we're going to type for x equals 0, so we don't need var anymore because we're already using the variable. And x is less than, so this is where we use our weapons, so weapons dot, and then I believe it's weapons again. Coming out, so weapons, yep, so weapons dot weapons, so it's searching that array. Then we need dot, and then we need to go and get our recipes, which we called recipes. Easy enough. So recipes, but we can't do that because weapons doesn't have recipes. An array inside it does. So what array do we set it to? Well, we set it to whatever we've selected. So if we go grids, so grids bracket selected grid, because we created it, didn't we? So as you can see, we've already got an array inside an array. And then we need tooltip, because that's what we set the ID to. So whatever weapon it is. So say we set it to 2 here, it'll basically say weapons.weapons 2. Easy, right? Then it'll get number 2's recipes, but it won't at the moment because tooltip is a string. It needs to be an integer. We've done int conversions before, but if you haven't, it's int.parse. Parse, I have no idea what that means. In my mind, it means convert, so do that. So that will get you the recipes, and if you type .length, as you can see, typing GameObject.find blah 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 is very long in this explanation, because my monitor's 24 inch, and yes, I'm zoomed in for you, but wow, imagine if I had a smaller monitor. So after this you type x++. So there's the first complex for loop. If you find that bit easy, you're gonna breeze through this tutorial, because it's maximum of 110 lines. We're on 80, we're nearly there. And something I've just thought about, for all of you who want the bit like Minecraft where you drag and drop certain materials, and if it equals this pattern it crafts it. This, what we're doing here, you still need. I just use my hand to show you. This bit here, you will still need even for that. Although those special effects go in here, this crafting bit will work for anything. So it really helps. So here's where we start our next for loop. So for y equals 0. Y is less than, and here is where we start searching item stats. So we have got no idea which material it could be. It could be thousands of materials, but it's still got to search it unless you specify the ID. It's up to you. But the reason I'm using a for loop and not using IDs when we're talking about the name is because what about if you rearrange this? The slightest rearrange will cause you an error. Searching, it will search over 1,000 records, milliseconds. Literally. Thousands click done. So, it's very doubtful you're going to have thousands of materials in a game, but why not just use the computer's processing power? It's really easy. So here, we'll type items, dot, and I believe it's called items again. Look at that, so much easier. So items.items, and it's an array again, so we'll put our brackets in, but what array do we need to search for? Well, of course we'll be searching the length of it, so we don't need an array. We just type dot length. So the reason it'll be searching the materials is basically a search function. So search, found it, this one. Simple. So after this we put y++. Right, this is where we'd start the main code. Now every time it searches here, it'll search the recipes. So say you've got 2 recipes, it'll call this for loop twice, 1, 2. So it'll call this one a lot more. So imagine every time it calls this one, it's 8. So once, 8. 2, 16. So that's 16 times now. 3, 30. 25, 4 times. I'm not very good on quick maths like that, but you can see this one quickly gets up there. That's what she said. But still, yeah. So this is where we actually begin. So we need a way to say whether the player's gone enough or not. And I thought a really good way to do it, we use an integer. Var we'll say maths, and then we'll set it to an int. So every time we'll set it to 0. Maths will automatically equal, later, we'll check if it equals the length of the recipes. If it equals the exact length, it means we've got it. If it doesn't, it means we haven't got enough materials. And the way it increases is in here, every time we check it. So, in here if we type if, items.items, y, so we're searching the item, so if y.name, because if we come in here, it is name. So we're searching this, and we'll set it to if it equals. So here as we say, does it equal the same material? And now this one, ooh, this is long, but it's easy too. So if we copy this line here, this exact line, so our weapons script.recipes, copy that entire thing. Then in the bracket, because which recipe are we searching? Well, we're searching X. So recipe wood is X0, recipe iron X1, recipe X steel 2, whichever it is. So we're currently searching recipe 1. So with recipe 1 it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, items done. Recipe 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll do it for you. But recipes dot name. So we're searching the name of the recipe. And then if we put a bracket on, and then open it up, that's the longest if statement you're going to get throughout this entire thing. So if you can crack that, I shake your hand, have a virtual cookie. You've got a long way to programming. But I mean, your programming life's going to be good. But what we've also got to do is copy this entire if statement again, and you'll see why in a minute. Oh dear, I didn't mean to do that one. Oh, did I? Yes, I did. So, in here again, we're not searching the name no more. We're going to search the player amount. So the items, it'll go in here, dot player amount. So it's searching it. At the moment we've got 0 on everything, except stone. No, we have got 0 on stone. 0 on everything. So at the moment we can't craft anything. So it'll search the player's amount, and it needs to compare it to the recipe's amount. That's it. And then every time it does, in here we're going to type maths ++. So, say we need 1 wood. If this returns that it equals the same, so player's amount has 1 and it equals 1, then it'll do it. But we don't need it to be 1 and 1. We want it to be 1 or more than. So say we have 1, we need 1 wood, but we've got 52 wood. Obviously we've got enough, so it increases the maths by 1. But what about if we haven't? then in that case what you do is here is you type else mats minus minus, and you need to have this minus minus in, else it corrupts the whole system. So if it's got wood, it'll add it, otherwise it'll take it away. So this could very well be -3, and that's when you know you're in trouble, because that means you haven't got no materials. So if you've got 20 apples and you need 5, this will be 1. But if you've only got 2 wood when you need 3, this will go back to 0. And this is where we come on to the next part. So that bit will definitely tell you whether you can craft that item or not. Guaranteed. But we can't test it yet. So this next bit you may think is totally pointless with some of the code, but it is very guaranteedly needed. What we actually have to do is copy this entire quantum for loop madness thing and paste it below. We do need this exact code again, but inside something. I will explain why we need that again in a minute, but then I will also explain why we couldn't use it up here, and you'll see why. So up here, if we type if, so we're searching if our mats, so our current mats, what we've got by increasing, decreasing it, is the exact same. You can't be less than or more than, it's got to be the exact same. And the D is just where I'm from, please don't point that out in the comments. You will also notice I say there instead of there, it's just where I'm from, and reet, not right or rate, but yes. So mats is the exact same as the length of the recipes, which is this line here, or this complex line. Boom. So we open it up, paste it in brackets. So what this will basically do, so as soon as we click craft, we've now got it searching, blah 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 blah. Right, this mats now equals 2, so it means we've got exact amount of recipes and materials we need. If it equals the same, do this, and this is where your error comes in. Else, and then in here, we now show the error. So we grab function update here, and we grab this show text bit here. So grab those 2 lines. If you didn't put that in, don't worry about it, and paste it in here. So it shows it, and instead of press Q to craft, we type, you do not have enough materials. Perfect, right? Then that'll show you an error. So this bit in here, we actually need it to run through and do the exact same thing it's doing up here again, but the only reason we can't use it up here is because otherwise it'll come down and say, right, the player has enough of this item, take it away. But then say you have 50 items, when you get to the 49th item and search it, if you don't have enough, it's already taken all the items away from you. It can't give it you back again. So it's a lot easier just to run it. It's a check, this is a big deal check. It runs it, right, this player definitely has enough. We can take things away from him. It's going to be that fast he can't get rid of it halfway through to expose the glitch there. So then it'll give him it. But this bit in here we don't need, so we can get rid of this. Boom. So this is where we begin taking it out, and then after we've taken it out we go here, have whatever you've just created. So we've got the name of it, and I'm actually going to put that line back in because we do need this line up here, kind of. So I'm going to bring it back. So we've got items.playerAmount, but we're not having it in if statement no more. We know they've got enough, so if it equals the same name, so search all the items blah blah blah, we've now got to energy box. So items.items.playerAmount minus equals, so now we're taking away. Then we've got weapons.weapons, selected grid tooltip, and then we've got recipes x amount, semicolon. So it takes away however much it needs. So say we need 2 wood, it'll take it away because we know the player's got enough. This will make it automatically update. For the actual inventory, we will need eventually to make it automatically update itself whenever something big happens. I will show you how to do that in the future because I have a much better inventory system. So now that we've done that, we take this away. So it takes all the items away, tick, 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 tick. Then we know we've got enough, so after the for loop, do not put it in. In the Lost Maps, I put it under here. If you don't know what the Lost Maps is, it's a game I'm making. I do, like, updates for it, but still. In the Lost Maps, I put it in there, and you ended up with 4 of the same weapons for the price of 1. So, however many items you had, to check, it will give you that many weapons or whatever, so it wasn't working. But under here, we're going to actually give them the weapon. So this is where the inventory comes in. So we need inventory dot, and if we go to our collision script, so collision, we already know we have the inventory that add things. So right, where is it? We'll find it. Right here, adding new item. So copy this line here. If you don't have this line, I will explain it to you, but I don't know this line off by heart, so I can't. So if you have my exact, well, our exact, because we're a community, our exact inventory to add items, you will go inv, or whatever you called it, dot new item, which if we go to that script, inventory add item, is it that one? That one. This new grid thing, new item here, basically calls it, and all this here, this long complex thing, adds it to your inventory for later. If you don't have an inventory, well, what's the point doing a crafting grid? You won't be getting nothing out of it. You kind of need an inventory. But yeah. So, inventory.new add item. So we go false, false, whatever. So what does all these equal? So let's go and have a look. So we need building, is it a weapon, and the ID of it. That's fine. So is it a building? False. Is it a weapon? True. And the ID of the weapon is grids.selectedgrid.tooltip. But it needs to be an integer. Like so. There. So it'll come down, add to our inventory, not a building, it's a weapon, and the ID of it is grids.selectedbuilding.tooltip. So it's 52 or 52. And there you may now shake your hand, you may breathe out of relief, it should be done. I'm going to say right now, if you have any errors whatsoever, because if you look at my recorder, if you can see it, yes, you may have seen that popping up, I need to take drinks and stuff. 46 minutes long, it's a long one, and as you can see, 111 lines, we spent an extra line when we did that. 110 lines, just like I said it would be. It's a good one, it's definitely a good one. So, let's test it, hey? So if we go back to our miss scripts, and go to our weapons here, we can see we have 0 wood swords. So if we come over to here and try to craft it, we know we've got not enough materials. As you can see, we've got nothing. So if you press Q, and wooden sword, so we click it and click craft. You do not have enough. You do not have enough materials. Oh no. So let's cheat on it, because I think we all don't want to run around collecting it. So if we go to item stats and change oak wood to 10, and I believe the other one was iron bar, so we change it to 10 as well. Then if we press Q, don't do this, wooden sword, craft. And now you can see, okay, one glitch you forgot. We never actually added it to our weapon stats here. We've never actually added it to player amount. We've added it to our inventory directly, which if we were to open it up it would work. Don't worry, this is really simple to fix. All we're going to do is type weapons.weapons right here, and then get that exact one again, so that line, weapons.weapons, then int.parse grid selected, so that get our sword, ice ball, whatever. Then we put dot player amount plus. Then it should add it perfectly and we should have no errors. So I'm going to start it and I'm automatically going to give myself 10 oak wood, 10 iron bars. So as soon as it loads, we go click, select. And as you can see, we have 0 wooden swords, 10 oak, 10 iron. So if we walk up to this, press Q, click wooden sword, click craft. It's glitching. Craft. As you can see, we just gained 1 wooden sword, and we've now got 8 iron and oak. So we click it again, click it again, click it again, click it again. We click it now, it disappears. Click it now, you don't have enough materials. I honestly don't know why it keeps hiding. I think it's something to do with the range up here. I will have to look over that, but it shouldn't disappear while it keeps doing. I actually think it's something to do with this press Q to craft. But you saw we now have working crafting inventory. As you can see, you have 4 wooden swords. It works perfect, apart from the hiding thing. I don't know what to say. Well done. If you've managed to get up to here, please hit the thumbs up. Please, I needed it. You saw me. You may have saw this going like that ever so often. That's when I was breaking and like trying not to go insane. But yeah, so texture this whatever you want it to be. I'm not sure if it will work with multiple ones yet. In the Lost Maps I had to do some extra features to get it to work. So crafting grid, it works. We can eventually make it craft different things, so not only weapons, we can make it craft items, buildings, stuff like that. Buildings, the same thing then. So we can make it craft this, or we can make it craft food, we can make it craft ammo, we can make it craft anything. So that's spelt wrong, that was annoying me. Arm is spelt the American way, I do it for everything. So, every single script is going to be in the description. Please hit the thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching to here. Thank you to everyone who voted, and I really hope you liked it. I will definitely continue improving this. Probably not soon, but I want to bug fix our game, but I've got a lot of suggestions. Thank you for watching. I really do mean it, and see you next time.